show is not suitable for children, sensitive men, or insecure women. Can you trust somebody that doesn't take care of their kids?
I don't trust no man on earth that does not take care of their children.
What's the biggest red flag in a relationship?
Low effort and not being honest.
Most of the time, you would think that a bad financial mistake would be spending money on clothes or vacation or like spending money on women. My worst financial mistake was buying a home.
Like a king, give me my crown.
Game time. Game time. Appreciate y'all.
All right. Special edition
of Blackout.
Special edition of Blackout. You know, we usually drop on Wednesdays, but we had to move it up today because man, monumental moment in hip hop history.
Absolutely.
For not good reasons.
Yeah.
But still monumental moment for sure, with the indictment of a hip hop icon, legend, whatever you want to call it, Sean Diddy Combs, on federal charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, a few other charges. We're going to talk about it. So, all right, we got a lot to talk about. We're going to bring some guests on. We're going to talk about the charges. We're going to talk about the situation, hip hop industry.
Is this done by design or accident?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're going to have a full-fledged conversation. Full-fledged conversation for sure. So, first of all, Thursday, we do have a regularly scheduled episode of Earn Your Leisure, and that's going to be the 50 Cent episode that is from Invest Fest.
Yeah.
So that's going to be live on Thursday at 9 o'clock on YouTube and all podcasts.
New time, new day. I like to switch up.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Appreciate it. You got to change up, man.
Absolutely.
Change up the wardrobe every now and then.
Once in a while. You know, they'd be criticizing you for the wardrobe. It'd be phenomenal, though.
Sure.
Y'all clapping up for my guy, man.
For sure. Okay. Anything that you would like to say before we get this show on?
Yes. I'm happy to be here in person. The first time doing it. Shout out to everybody who tuned in to Blackout.
Facts.
Ian and Rashad are recording 4K.
That's a fact.
See? Shout out to you, though. If you want to get rich from the market, go to ianinvest.com. If you want to know where to get in, where to get out, what companies to stay away from, 90 prices are delivered every month. A call a week. If I've made you money, please put yes in chat. But go to ianinvest.com, join redpanda.com. Love y'all if you want to be free.
All right. So, okay. Man, we got a lot to talk about.
Tough.
We're going to lead it off on this Diddy conversation because that's what everybody has taught us. That's the news cycle
of the town
of the day.
Yeah.
That's what everybody's talking about. So as opposed to us just giving our opinions, which we're going to give our opinions, we wanted to bring some other outside voices in, people that, had different perspective from different walks of life. We wanted to bring friend of the show, good brother, Chris Gotti, if we could bring Chris up. So let's bring our second guest on to get some legal insight. Yes. What's up, brother?
What's going on, fellas? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. All right. Let's reset the room. So now we got Chris Gotti and we got William Wagstaff. William Wagstaff recently ran for district attorney of Westchester County and is a very esteemed lawyer. Great story. He was on Market Monday. He's told his whole story.
Yeah.
And somebody that has fought on the other side of the law as far as against the prosecution. Well, he was a civil rights attorney, so he fights against the system as far as that is concerned. So very knowledgeable how this courtroom process works. So first and foremost, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, fellas. Always good to see you.
Yeah.
So, all right. So can you explain these charges, sex trafficking, fraud, racketeering, conspiracy? It's a lot to kind of dissect, and people don't fully understand. Chris was kind of talking about it earlier when he was like, sex trafficking used to be 20 people, but now it's one person. It can be a very murky situation. So can you kind of just explain it from a legal standpoint to kind of give people a better understanding?
Sure. And I think, as you said earlier, to take your words to sort of reset the table, I think context is so important, because if you think about people from the culture that are looking at this and they're thinking, okay, there were chicks that were being flown in, there were parties, there were drugs. This seems like a regular night in hip hop culture. What do you mean conspiracy? What do you mean racketeering? It's not resonating for them because the legal concepts are being applied in a way that they're not normally being applied. And they are sort of taking the same blueprint with what happened with R. Kelly, where when people were initially saying, well, okay, we get that the conduct be repulsive and that it was illegal, they were underage minors. But once you start saying conspiracy and racketeering, it's sort of puzzling. And essentially what they have drafted this indictment to frame it as, there was an enterprise. And they're now expanding what you would think is the enterprise, which is Bad Boy, Combs Enterprises, all of the businesses that we know Diddy has been involved in for decades. And then they sort of slide in there that him having people that work for him, whether they were assistants, bodyguards, whoever, procuring women under the guise of, hey, Diddy's feeling you, he wants to date you, bringing them in, and then bringing in commercial sex workers, that now became a part of his overall business enterprise, his gratification for sexual reasons, which when you think about it, you're saying, no, that doesn't make sense, because your intuition is, well, how does what he wants to do in the privacy of his bedroom and utilizing perhaps his cachet as a music mogul and individuals saying, party at Diddy's house? Of course I'm there. Where you or I would be attracted to a woman, say, hey, you want to come see me? They would fly in and you would think nothing of it. But they have the tool that allows them to expand the enterprise to include things that would normally be personal acts. So that's the first step, is that they have to argue that there is this enterprise. And then they have to get into, well, what's the purpose of this enterprise? So they first start talking about Bad Boy Entertainment, Ciroc at the time when he was doing liquor, and then also include in there, well, procuring sex workers for his sexual gratification. They now make that an additional purpose of the enterprise. Mm-hmm. And then they build on that and say, well, here are the acts. And these are the things that were engaged in by him and others on his behalf in furtherance of that. And then they take things, there were drugs present. People are claiming that he was giving them drugs. So now you have the fact that he had illegal drugs, and then they added an intent to distribute. They take something and just using the video that we saw of Cassie and him not allowing her to leave. Oh, now they got you on kidnapping. Mm-hmm. So now what many people would look at as a toxic domestic violence encounter under the law, that's kidnapping and can be framed as kidnapping. So you have all of these things that are predicates that they can prove are elements of this broader conspiracy. And then again, I know that there are plenty of people in the culture, guys and girls, that have had adult entertainers, strippers, dancers, and flown them in. And there was an understanding, either explicitly or indirectly understood, that there was going to be money in exchange for your company, for your sex. You could be charged with violating the Mann Act. They're not going to target an everyday person. They're going to target someone like Diddy because it's salacious and it makes good news. But that's now a violation of the Mann Act. And interestingly enough, what's
the Mann Act? What is that?
The Mann Act is essentially, you violate the Mann Act if you are trafficking an individual across state lines for the purpose of illegal sex acts, or it even has language from its original drafting, immoral conduct. Now, interestingly enough, the Mann Act was originally used to target people of color, and they would use that to target us. So for it to now still be in place and being used to target one of the most powerful and one of the most successful black men is poetic, even though it's tragic. But then you have the violation of the Mann Act, and then they get into people being threatened, talking about possession of illegal firearms, which were recovered in the Miami house. So now you just build upon it. And I think the kicker, the piece that is the most devastating, is because they're trying to draw this nexus and correlation between Puff Daddy, the businessman, and Puff Daddy having freak offs. There are pieces of the statute that allow for you to do forfeiture. Meaning, if they can make the argument that this is in some way interrelated to his business, the $1 billion empire that he spent 30 years building, they could try to start stripping assets from him, trying to say that this was the result of this criminal enterprise, which is sort of ironic because in one breath, they're charging him with trying to tamper with witnesses and saying that you were doing all of these criminal things to keep the freak-offs quiet, but then in the same breath saying that you did it to further promote your legitimate businesses, and it can't be both.
Hey. Well, you know, William, you touched on some stuff, but I also know that all of these things are done in corporate America, like, you know, not just black enterprises. You know, Wolf of Wall Street, if you watch that movie, you know, you've seen what Belfort, what's his name?
Yeah. Jordan Belfort,
yeah.
Jordan Belfort was doing, you understand, he was bringing in prostitutes, everything. This was well known. This was not, but this is not something new from a corporate standpoint, and it's definitely not a black thing.
It doesn't make it right, though. We got to be clear.
No, it doesn't make it.
But I get the bigger context.
No, he's trying to.
Yeah. I just don't want them to clip it up like we're.
No, for sure. Yeah. But it's like we gotta be fair. And
you know, I would love it to be done equally. That's all is what I'm saying, and I don't see that. I don't see those charges being done on the other side, and again, I'm not a conspiracy in. I'm not, but you know, if you do dirt, you get dirt. And so, and I'm not condoning anything done. I told you that earlier at the end of the day, but when he says that it was part of a business, right? I could sit there and say that is absolutely true in the sense of business. But again, all businesses might have done this, not just hip hop or black music, right? Meaning they use the influence of a pretty girl to get another business partner or someone they want to do business with, or, you know, to kind of say, man, this was great. Let's do it.
Like the recruiting in college basketball and football.
Casinos, Vegas.
Yeah.
You know, we could go into every business. This is what this country is built on, arguably in the craziest sense, but it's real. But it's like, here we are with this hip hop icon, mogul, whatever you want to call him. Yes, there's, again, until proven guilty, I don't want to say he's done it. We've seen only one thing, which was the Cassie video, which was terrible. I reached out to her to just let her know, you know, I felt bad for her. I didn't know it was that kind of relationship, but they did have a volatile relationship. I know both of them very well. And if that's your girlfriend, wife, and that's the relationship you have, it is what it is to me. It's like that. I don't get in the middle of a wife and a husband.
It's still wrong.
They carry their relationship, right or wrong. That is their. It's just how I feel. It's like that's their personal business, and it would take either one of them to say enough's enough, which he did, and that's when it's no longer. But we watched something that to me is something that probably was going on with they had a volatile relationship. That's how they might have liked that. That might have turned them on. Not saying that's what it was. I'm not saying that. I'm like, at that moment, she was probably saying enough's enough and I'm done. But it is part of what they was living with for years. And so I'm not saying it's condoning. I'm not condoning it. I want to make sure that, because people say, oh, you think that's cool? No, I don't. Meaning you take them for all their flaws, good or bad, vice versa, both ways.
But I think we got to have a conversation about this era about men moving better, if we're going to be honest. Like, for all you fellas on this being simps and cash apping first and buying a flight, you can get caught in this shit 3 or 4 years.
You know it, you're right. But I do say, as much as you say that, I still say the female have to change more than the men, because we'll change for the woman. See, a man, we could change, yes, but a woman still has Adam and Eve made him eat that apple. That's what I mean. And
that's Adam's fault that he fell for it?
Yes. So he heard the word of God, right? He's supposed to know. Like, I can't listen to her, but it was still tested. And that to me is kind of the same scenario. Like, when I say it's up to the women, because a heterosexual man does everything for a woman, period.
Yeah.
You got dressed and got your hair cut, your beard, everything is because of a female, whoever that is, or whoever you want.
Shout out to my baby.
Here. Well, let me ask you this. So let me ask you this: as far as the as far as so there's one part of this situation that's interesting, right? When and William, I wanted to get your perspective, and Chris, how you feel about this, and Ian also. When the prosecutor does a press conference today and announces that they find thousands of bottles of lubricant and baby oil. Having lubricant and baby oil is not a crime, right? That to me seems like a
That's egregious.
No, it seems like a humiliation that you're trying to ruin the reputation of somebody even further. Like because like I said, that's going viral, but having lubricant and baby oil is not a crime, right? So what would be the purpose of
stock in those companies?
William, what would be the purpose of announcing that they found thousands of bottles of baby oil?
I think there's a couple pieces to that. And I think one of them, for me as an attorney, and I do criminal defense work as well as civil rights work, it's always been frustrating to me and hypocritical that the ethics, as attorneys, we have ethics that we're bound by. And one of the ethical rules is you're not supposed to do things in the public and do promotional things to try to influence or impact the outcome of a case. And prosecutors do it all the time. You would think that the government, who's supposed to be representing the people, would be held to a higher standard, and they wouldn't be focused on wins and losses, but would be focused on what is the right outcome? What does justice look like? And I think that they do that here in other cases because it's salacious. And what you're trying to do is influence your potential jury pool.
Absolutely.
And you want people to hear that and say, well, the reasonable person doesn't have 1,000 bottles. Normal people don't have 1,000 bottles.
Walmart won't have 1,000 bottles.
You can't even go to Sam's Club. You can't. You would have to go to China and get.
Maybe during the pandemic, he had to stock up.
Yeah.
So what that's suggesting is
Chris, you funny.
the speed of the gravity of these freak offs. Now, if you know there's 1,000 bottles, he has these mansions that are 10,000 square feet, 15,000 square feet with rooms. You now start to run off in your mind and say, wow, this guy was pretty depraved. This was going on in the debauchery in every room. It's further narrating their story for them before they are even in a court determining whether or not this is admissible in evidence. And that's
crazy, though.
You touched on something with the prosecutors, and there should be a level of ethics, which I feel they always cross. And I know you're a prosecutor. I don't want to put you.
No, he's a defense attorney.
He said he does both.
I ran be district attorney in Westchester County. Okay. And the reason that I ran was because I understood. I
believe I promoted you in Westchester County.
I understood the issue with the justice system.
So what I want to say with that is again, I have like all these different sayings that kind of keeps me safe or make me understand scenarios. And one of them would be for this is absolute power corrupts absolutely. In a case like this, that prosecutor is looking for political gain, so they want to help themselves. So by any means necessary, perception of 1,000 bottles of lubricant, it sets a perception like, oh my God, he was in all, he's going through that much lubricant. Like, what the hell? That's the perception. You know, in my case, they kept calling me Gotti because of John Gotti. And I said, no, my fucking name is Lorenzo. Gotti's a nickname. You have me charged by Christopher Lorenzo. It doesn't say Christopher Gotti on their docket. So why you keep calling docket? And my lawyer made sure to tell the prosecutor that to make that change because she's trying to make and create perception. The ethics, again, they don't have them, especially in high profile cases. You could forget it. That's out the window. It's by any means necessary because it's going to help their career and move them forward. They're going to say, hey, I'm the one that brought down Diddy. And that's how they get a better job and get more money. And that is the problem with the prosecutor. You know, there's a lot that goes inside being someone that went through that and seeing it, because I also feel they're envious of the success of the person, and they're like, you made all that money and look at this, now you're here, and they could get to control. There's a little bit of, I don't know what the right word would be, a
Power dynamic,
approach to their job, because they want to show the power that they have. That they used to come to my house every morning, 3 to 4 times out of a week. Okay, ring my bell. I open the door and they come sit in my living room just to tell me that I'm going to go to jail. And my lawyer would say, Chris, stop letting them in. I said, I want to hear what they got to say. I'm not going to say, I said, Jerry, I'm not going to say anything. Their whole thing was that is, they even told me one day, we found out some information. I said, what's that? They said, there's a price on your head. Someone's is got money on your head to kill you. I said, really? So what are you going to do? They said, we just did. Have a nice day. Meaning they told us, because they're legally, am I wrong? They have to tell you if they have a wiretap or something about some information like that, they're required to tell you. So they come to tell me that they know that, but this is all part of, because they want me to do something crazy, right? They want me to react to that. They want that. To me is all the same. They want that. And then that goes back to ethics and how they would proceed with moving with all these different cases.
Can we talk about ethics in our culture for emerging hip hop moguls, hip hop artists? What should be done to clean up some of this mess that's been created over the last 10, 20, 30 years as laws change? Because us blaming the system isn't going to change anything. I agree with the political timing of it.
You have, Ian, we could talk, because that's like that's a huge question to put on.
I think is people need to start seeking legal representation and having open and honest conversations with experts, the same way they tune into you guys to get investment tips and tune in to make financial decisions. They do that to inform themselves. And I think that people wait until the indictment or wait until something happens, and then they go and get the lawyer, instead of having ongoing dialogue with your CPA, ongoing dialogue with your attorney that is a part of your team, that is tapped into whatever it is that you're doing professionally and personally, so that you're aware. There's some sort of arrogance that I think when dudes are making money and moving fast, that, yeah, I don't need that. And how many dudes will say, yeah, I got the bag, I got the stash. And then as soon as something happens, and I'm having these conversations, I say the rent is $100,000. And there's the humming. No, I don't want to hear humming. You had the money when it was time to go to those bottles. You had money for that. You had money when it was time to get drip. You had money for all of these other things, but you didn't plan accordingly and say, you know what? I know that there could be issues that arise, and they may not be issues of my own doing. It could be unfortunate circumstances. I'm going to be prepared financially and constantly tapped in with advisors, instead of thinking that the homie from the block is going to tell you what the outcome is. Jailhouse lawyer or your man that just did a 20-year bid has the information, because while they may know bits and pieces, they're not going to be able to save you when the indictment comes down. So I think there needs to be a change, and you guys have set sort of the model for, still be cool, we can still be swaggy, but be informed. We need to be informed in all aspects of the things that we're doing if we're going to protect ourselves.
Yeah. William, like in that scenario, like just because they're successful, they shouldn't think about negative, like we're going to jail or indictments coming. If you're doing wrong, if you do dirt, you get dirt. I get it. But if you're generating legal money, like for our case, my whole life, I worked my whole life. The feds know that. They know that. They know who I am. I'm from a family of 8. They still came. Why would I be preparing for a federal indictment? See, that's the perspective I don't see when you say that. It's like, no, that's not real. When he asks, how do you change it? How do you change? I'm going to ask this question to you. Again, I'll pose a question, because when you say, how do you change it? How do you change someone like a baby, okay, in Slim from New Orleans, that this is what they grew up in, now they're generating hundreds of millions of dollars?
Yeah, that's tough.
Where their mindset came from to get that money If they didn't have it, they wouldn't get it. See, and that's what they think. It's just like an artist that makes a hit record. And you started seeing all these artists start do drugs. And I'll tap into that real quick, because this is what people that are not inside the culture don't understand. I believe there's a record with it's with he's from Memphis. Come on, oh my goodness! But I think it's Lil Wayne, and he said whatever's in that red cup.
Money bag, yo.
And he said, and it's the beginning of the record, but I think it's Lil Wayne's voice. He said, if I make this hit record, and then I had this red cup, you know, he's talking about that lean, whatever is in that cup. He said, and if I drink it and I make another, he said, I'm gonna keep that drinking from that red cup. See, that's what the hood will do. So you want someone to be educated and smart, like you guys all are on this thing, but that's not the cloth they're cut from, and it's not what made them successful. And anyone that's successful, and I'll put you all in that same category, will do exactly what you did to become successful, over and over and over. If I'm lying, you stop me. Yeah, because that's the nature of any successful person. They understand that blueprint and they use it to the best of their knowledge and ability to do it again. They didn't go to law school. They went through these things. Diddy, again, he might have had a better upbringing, but we're talking sexual acts for the most part. We didn't talk nothing else really except for sexual acts. So I never look at someone's sexual preference or acts of things. Now, if they're doing kidnapping, I don't believe he's a kidnapper. I don't believe he's raping. I don't believe that, right? That's just me. Is he into some crazy shit with a lot of oil? So what? That's his preference.
The domestic abuse thing was clear with the Cassie thing.
But that's, again, as long as it's consensual, right? It's not like the
domestic
abuse is not consensual.
Domestic violence can never be consensual. We can't.
I didn't say domestic violence. I didn't say
okay.
Domestic violence. That's a different scenario. I'm just saying.
No, I get what you're saying. All right, so
I'm gonna challenge that a little bit.
Knows what the reason is why he's the challenge.
Chris, I'm gonna challenge what you said a bit. That what you're expressing ignores the possibility of evolution.
Never.
So yes, I agree with you that at core, somebody is going to defer to what made them successful. They can add things to their.
Let me just debunk that real quick, because that's completely like one side of the way you're looking. The reason I'll debunk it is Baby Slim, I'll use them again, could never live how they lived when they first started. They could never be the same. They have to evolve. They're living in mansions. They're flying private. They're doing things that they never dreamed of. So they're not the same, but it doesn't mean in their core.
But I'm
not saying they can't change.
But they also not change. But you and I both know, okay, Baby and Slim, they are from Louisiana, right?
Yes.
But you and I both
Baby Slim
from the streets of Louisiana, right?
Yes.
But you and I both know that they have very educated people around them.
Of course.
Vernon Brown, he's been in the music business for over 30 years. He's an educated. He's a educated.
Vernon Brown. Shout out to Vernon Brown, my law school professor.
It's like you take.
But so I think that's what William is saying, right? You got to have good counsel around you.
Of course.
To guide you to be like, yo, bro.
Okay, he has great counsel around him, but he still goes to Hot 97 and say, put some respect on my name. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Right? With all the great counsel around him, he still does that.
Yeah, that core instinct and core nature.
I'm not talking about not having great counsel around you. Yeah. But what I'm saying, I use this analogy. I talked to David Stern about NBA players when he was the commissioner, and this is exactly the same. How can we stop these NBA players from being broke? How? I said, really, I don't know how to stop them from wanting to live their life, from working as hard as they did to just play ball, right? To get to the level that they're now an NBA player. Yeah. Now they get this money. What do you think they want to do? Put it in.
So, all right. So what do you? So you're saying that you got to be a wolf out here to reach the levels of success that these people have reached, right? And in part of being a wolf, you're probably liable to do some wild shit because your brain has to be wired on a certain power trip type dynamic. So you're trying to say like that is inevitable. And you have to, it's almost impossible to separate the wild aspect of the shit because
we're human beings. We create a perception of what we want. And it's nothing impossible. I don't want you guys thinking this is the only way, but I live on the large number of things, right? The large number side. That's how I look at life. The populace, this is here. My father used to call it the giant and the midget. I'm dealing with the giant side, okay, not the midget side. I hope it's not inappropriate.
Small people.
Small people, yeah, it's politically correct. But I'm just telling you what my dad used to say when he was here. And again, so the giant side is what I'm talking about. Nothing is 100% except death. But when you take somebody, okay, that worked their whole life to get to the NBA, that 18 years, because that's 20 years, 21 years, that's what it takes to get there, right? All they did was watch everyone else living their dreams. You don't think they have that same aspiration to do things? For the most part, coming from the hood, they didn't have a mom and dad that is financially savvy. That they don't understand it. The reason they go broke is because they give their mom and dad money to do a restaurant that goes belly up, and they have no clue how to run a restaurant. I live this. I watch it over and over and over physically with the person in the families. I see it. See, I'm inside of that. I'm not outside of it. So it's easy for outside to say they just made all this money, but they also want to have a life of flying some women and go and have some fun. They want to buy mommy a house, maybe grandmama a house. They might have a kid or two. They got to take care of. And next thing you know, they got to pay taxes. And next thing you know, they don't have the money. They set a lifestyle that they can't maintain.
Yeah.
And then their career isn't as long as they wish or hoped it would be. And now they're in trouble financially. It happens over and over again. Same in hip hop.
But that's the problem though, right? Because it's like, okay, Suge Knight was a hell of a record executive who's a very intelligent man who's doing 30 years in jail because he couldn't separate the street shit from. Diddy is a fucking one of the most brilliant entrepreneurs of our generation. Now he's facing sex charges because he couldn't separate the bullshit from this. Fuck, like we can go down the list, right? R. Kelly, one of the most greatest vocalists of all time, and he couldn't separate his sex deviance from. So it's like I understand what you're saying, but
how do you?
I don't know if that's not a good enough excuse because it's only going to lead.
I didn't give David Stern and say that's the excuse. I give you reality. So it's not fair to not look at what is real and of what this isn't. This is what all these kids are dealing with, and you guys are changing that. I talk to you about this all the time with you and Troy. You guys are changing that, and it takes. Man, we're talking hundreds of years. Like this doesn't happen overnight. This is what it takes to make the change, to see something different. We never seen anything different. So then we lived it and created it, right? And now that's what's coming next. Now
that's a good point. That's a good point. These guys are following blueprints that somebody else laid for them. Nobody wants to talk about that. Diddy didn't learn this behavior from.
He was taught it.
Somebody at a high level that's very successful.
When we gonna get to the point.
Somebody at a high level that's very
even with the R. Kelly. I'm from the Midwest. Everybody in Chicago and Northwest, and he was going to Thornton High School fucking games, picking up. Nobody said shit.
Yes.
GCI, shout to y'all. I love y'all dearly. Nobody said shit. Playing his records like crazy.
Well, William, let me ask you this because I don't want to make this a male dominated conversation, even though it's only all males, right? How do we protect women? Because even part of running on your campaign was, I think sex trafficking was part of your campaign, right? For district attorney. So how do we protect women in this situation and not just enable powerful men? Because this is a situation that highlights sex trafficking is a real thing. I don't know if it's a real thing in Diddy's situation or not. But there is sex trafficking that happens in America. There is domestic violence that happens in America. There is people getting drugged
at a large
that happens in America. There's rape that happens in America and all over the world. So from a legal, like let's have some because I don't want to center this just as like we're only bashing the system, because some of this shit is actually pretty alarming.
Well, I think there's, for me, two parts to it. I think the first part is in our families and friends, we need to start pouring into women so they don't continually seek out the attention and to be validated by being in these spaces. A lot of women find themselves at this freak off or find themselves being passed around by ball players because that is the only way they feel loved. That's the only way they feel validated. So even if it's your cousin, you need to be able to pull her to the side and say, no, you're worth more than that. You don't have to be subjected to that. You don't have to tolerate infidelity or any of the negative treatment just because the person is able to provide for you financially. There needs to be those conversations. So I think everybody has a cousin. Everybody has a mom, aunt, a family member that they've seen be in a relationship that they knew was toxic, but the culture of I'm going to mind my own business, that's that man and that woman, we need to break through that and start just standing on what's right and what's wrong, even if it's going to be viewed by other men as sucker for love, or you got your cape on and you trying to save them. No, it's trying to stop.
But let me ask you this. But let me ask you this from a legal standpoint, right? Let's have some real conversation, because legally, if there's a law put in place that if you take somebody across state lines and they're a sex worker, then that's sex trafficking. I guess that, and is that the law? First of all, is that the law?
You said sex worker, like you
a stripper. Okay, a stripper is considered a sex worker, right?
Yes.
I wouldn't think so.
OnlyFans.
Yes,
Sex
because if they're a dancer, I don't know that qualifies as sex worker. For me, when I say sex worker, I think of someone who is deciding to exchange sex for money.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
If
fair
you
enough.
fly a stripper out and you fuck her in Miami,
fair enough. All right, if you
come on, what the fuck are you talking about?
If you're a prostitute, let's just say if you're a prostitute, if you're a prostitute, right? And it's been arranged that okay, you're gonna come from DR to
anywhere across,
and you're gonna get paid for your services, right? No, let's
before or after,
right? But what I'm saying is that to me, that's not sex trafficking. That is you are engaging. That's prostitution, though. But so it's like, how can laws be like? To me, that seems like an unfair law.
How is it? Some of y'all need to be able to fuck off your own dick and own game.
That's a different conversation.
Let's have a conversation. Most of you motherfuckers are nasty, and you've been predators your whole fucking life and had no bitches in real life. So you have to put out all this money and all this other. Oh, we gonna talk or we gonna talk?
No, but seriously, like it needs
long enough. I'm tired of this political shit.
No, but that's fine.
Lanes out here, yo.
Be a clear line, like okay, you're saying if you meet a girl in a strip club, and then you say we're going to Miami, she says yes, and you have sex with her in Miami, that's sex trafficking.
That's what it's merging to be.
If you get paid, if she gets paid for her services.
But I feel like, again, talking about the legal technicality, if there is an understanding that I'm going to pay you, then I met you in the strip club, you were feeling me, and I said, I'm up, we're going to Miami tomorrow, you want to roll, and you say yes. And there was no predetermined, I'm going to pay you this for that. There may have been an understanding that she's not hopping on a flight with you. And
inebriated in the club, agreed to it, went to Miami the next day, you put her in Spirit 52C. You kick her out the Fountain Blue or somewhere in Brickell. She can go back to Weehawken and say, he pressed. What are we talking about?
That's why you gotta be careful.
You gotta be mindful. Most of y'all moving around foul.
Well, what about NDAs from a legal standpoint, William?
Chris, we gonna talk.
The NDA, with an NDA, would you all right, let's say that you represent clients, right? Let's say that people in hip hop and you're consulting up and coming mogul, right? Would you have your clients have their female friends sign NDAs? And would that help? Would the NDA even help?
Bigger than the NDA, I'm a fan of the affidavit. If you have somebody execute an affidavit that says under the penalty of perjury, I blah on my own free will and accord decided that I wanted to spend the evening with blah 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 blah. That to me, then if they try to what you said, go back to Weehawken or wherever and say, oh, I was pressured, I was this, no, I have something here. So either you were lying then or you're lying now. Either way, and then I'm going to tell the prosecutor, you should prosecute this person for perjury. The NDA is dealing civilly with you're agreeing to not talk about what happened. And if you violate this, I can come after you for a financial penalty. But that doesn't specify that you weren't okay with or some other act. It just says, I'm not going to talk about it. Now, if you cross the line, that still doesn't preempt them from going.
The NDA don't protect you.
I was cool with not saying anything, but then he locked me in a closet and was whipping me. No. Whatever it is, no matter how wild you want to get, affidavit.
Yes.
But nobody's signing an affidavit though.
Most people are gonna have enough game to get a girl on their own. They ain't making no woman sign an affidavit.
Nobody.
Nah.
All right, so
it depends on who to do this. I bet you, NBA star right now, there's a party and chicks want to get into that party. If the requirement to come kick it with, and I won't name anybody, just random, is to come, they're gonna sign it because the allure, unfortunately, the culture now, the allure of being in that party is so great. They're signing it. They may not sign it knowingly. And now if you flip it and you're representing that person later, oh, it was duress, they weren't thinking clearly, there are still going to be arguments on the other side of it, but you would at least give yourself some protection that everybody that ran through here, you left your phone and you signed an affidavit that you were cool with whatever went down in that party. Now you have some protection.
That's a fact.
You know, it's crazy. In my trial, my case, what I did with everyone around me was I hired private investigators to investigate everyone, and I let them know you're being investigated. And if you don't cooperate with the investigation, I don't expect to see you anymore. Because
you let them know that they was being investigated?
Absolutely. Here's the investigator. He's coming to talk to you, and then everything. And then I thought that was one of the big things for our trial as well. We had two people that was cooperating, but not in our case, with other cases that they found out. But everyone else came up with everything was good. So, you want to know where the enemy is at. And I feel Diddy should take that approach too, because when you're dealing with conspiracy, you're going to get the statements that says CI, a confidential informant. So you don't really know. You have to start putting it together. Like, who was there when I talked about this or when this went on? And you got to kind of formulate that back to see who was in that room. And then it might be 3-4 people. And you're like, you start playing your mind games with yourself. Like, he would have never do that. Would he do that? Like, you know what I mean? And then you going through that, and then that investigation from the private investigator kind of got rid of all of that worry.
To that point, I know this may sound crazy, but this is a winnable case, especially since Diddy has essentially unlimited resources. This is a winnable case. I think that this is
given the power structure.
What's the reason it would win?
I'm sorry?
Given
in the Southern District.
Go ahead. Yeah,
I'm sorry. In the Southern District, in New York City, in Manhattan, rather, whatever. What is the odds of him winning a federal case with those jurors, and why do you say he's going to? It's a winnable case. You tell me.
Case to win.
I think that, and maybe this is based on myself and my partner, some of the results that we've gotten. I am of the mind that if you spend enough money and spend enough time, that almost any case is winnable. I genuinely believe that. And to use an example, my partner had a doctor, and this was in New Jersey. He had a doctor who was accused of sexually assaulting or touching 48 patients. And he got him acquitted on all charges. It cost $5 million in many years, but it was work. If you put the team behind it and spend the money, it's winnable. At a minimum, you can put the prosecution in the position they were in your case, where they are so uncomfortable about their prospects that they will offer a deal that is so ridiculous where you say, you know what, I'll take this year and you don't touch my money. I think you could, at a minimum, get it there.
Well, he beat the state at least before.
Yep.
with the
And I
with the
think
shot.
that's part of the motivation for why they want him is going back to all of these situations where Diddy has sort of come out victorious and been brash, and they have never been able to get him. Because even looking up indictment today, when I look into the federal system, I see that there's all of these other cases that have been filed civilly and other things that didn't necessarily get any public attention. So I think there's an ego piece to this, that the system sort of feels like, yo, this dude keeps evading us. Now we got him. But I think that puts the team around him, it's a winnable case.
If it cost that doctor $5 million to win, how much money would it take for him to win this case? 60?
Listen, whether it's 60, you know Diddy got it. So if it's your freedom and protecting the legacy that you spent your entire adult year to build, money should be of no consequence. There should be a blank check. The retainer should be whatever.
But if hypothetically, because I don't know, but if anything was paid out of Combs Enterprises, wouldn't assets be frozen to not be able to access the 60?
That depends.
It depends. And again, all we have is an indictment. If I was on the team and I had more information, I would be able to speak more intelligently. I can certainly tell you that, unfortunately, money matters in the system. The more money that you have, and Chris, the amount of money that you probably spent on investigators alone, experts.
You know, it's funny you mentioned this because when I first was, we had a Gerald Levcourt is a friend of the family. He's a high profile attorney. Irv snatched him up. So Irv didn't have to search. I had to search for my attorney. I interviewed all of the biggest names attorney in New York at the time. And when I walk in the office, you know, I'll never forget Ted Wells is a black attorney, top attorney. And he sits there and he said, how you doing? He said, you're in my office. That means it's $3 million retainer to start. And when he said that, I said, do you think I didn't have that when I walked in your office? You didn't think I knew that? And he said, well, then let's get talking. Let's see. But it made me not want to work with him immediately. Okay. And I went into like the Brofman, I forget his name, and Derkowitz, and $2.5 million, $3 million was the number for all of them, which we knew already. That's the retainer for my attorney. And then I walk into Gerald Shargell, and he's like, talk to me about the case. Let's see, what do we have? He talked about real shit. Money wasn't an issue. Diddy's not thinking money. So when you say this, the money is again, you're right, but don't lead with that. That's a turnover. That is a turnover. Here's the other part to that. The flip side is you cannot guarantee a win, especially in the federal system, no matter if he spent $100 million, unless you're talking about bribery. Unless you're talking bribery, it's not what we're talking. There's no guarantee. Again, my lawyer, when he told me, when they offered me no jail time, he's like, Chris, and I said, no, let's go set the trial. He was like, Chris, you realize I cannot guarantee you a win, even though you didn't do anything. And I understood that. But that's the difference in attorney. And I would advise you, if you don't mind, like if you're approaching clients, especially clients with money, not clients that don't have money, clients with money, don't lead with money. Because that's not a thought for them. They only want to know, how are you going to protect them?
Yeah.
That's all they want to know.
Agreed. And I would never, let's be clear, that would never be the way I lead with any client, because you have a human being interview first. Yeah. But the conversation of how could Diddy win, or how is it possible, the question was posed. So my response was to the question. That would never be the way that I would lead any conversation, because I spend the first time that I'm meeting someone 5 hours just trying to understand who they are and understanding.
I got you. That's when you said it could win. I asked you the question, how would you do it? And you only led with money. You said with money, anything could happen. We understand that. I need law. I need real reasoning. And that's why I asked you that question, because I went through
in that district particularly.
In this particularly, like, he doesn't want to hear about, with money. He wants to hear law. If you say you could win a case, don't tell me it's just money. That's resources. We understand That's what that is. That means you could go higher. Yes, I spend a lot of money on investigators. I spend money on, I mean, I pay for everyone's attorneys, everybody that was under the trial that we was in. We did that. Me and my brother did that. I ran out of my money. I went broke on my trial. My brother continued for me. Okay. I spent the money that I had saved up, all gone in that trial. Again, so it wasn't like you said, people spend every dollar for their freedom.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? I'm going to make it again when I'm home. That's how I look at it. So it's no issue. So yes, the money, that's why it's even more reason not to talk money, because that is, everyone understands that that's a given. That is like something that to me is like a bad way to talk, because then you can't guarantee it. You might make an enemy, then a real enemy that they thought they paid you, and then it doesn't happen, and then they're looking at you in a different way.
So let me ask you this question.
And money's power.
Let me ask you this question a different way, or I'll throw this back at you. If somebody has not looked at any of the facts and only has just the bare bones of an indictment, however, they try to tell you without spending time cogitating on what would be the best way, understanding from you what your defenses are, information that they could only get from you as the client, that they had an answer. Wouldn't that for you feel like that snake oil? I don't think that any attorney who hasn't been representing Diddy to this point and been a part of the investigation could right now on the fly in fairness say, here's the law. This is the reason why I believe he has a viable defense, because you don't have the information. So if you articulated that you had the answer already, to me, I would call BS, because you don't have the answer. Now, you could speak to technical challenges about the indictment and them trying to make an enterprise that largely is looping in personal conduct that has nothing at all to do with his business as a fatal flaw in the way the indictment was drafted. That to me is a point of attack. But for somebody to rattle off myself or anyone else, this is exactly how we're going to fix the problem. And I know that.
Again, if you with Shargell, he wasn't saying this is how I'm fixing it, but he attacked it from the charges, his experience in those charges, and then talking about me and my brother personally, our lifestyle, what was he up to, what was he doing. He attacked it from a real strategic approach. It was not, again, yeah, of course.
Diagnosis.
Hold on, in a high profile case, you're not dealing with a dummy. Like we've acquired success because we have knowledge and information. Where we may not be Harvard educated, but I spent my time being Harvard educated in my own way, in my own rights, in all these different areas, and that's really from experience and knowledge. Like you could be a lawyer, but without the experience, you don't have the knowledge.
Well, let me ask you this. Not to harbor on this point for too long. Before we wrap, William, we assuming the worst case situation for Diddy, right? And he gets convicted. What's the worst that he's looking at as far as time?
Well, you got just on the racketeering, the max is 20 years.
Yes.
So that's one count. That's not including the additional counts. Then,
and for those who don't know, what is racketeering?
That is what he's charged. Racketeering is what the R in RICO stands for. Mm-hmm. And so it's a conspiracy. It's a continuing criminal enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 20. Then you have violation of the Mann Act. And then in the federal system, they have, and it's not required, but they have sentencing guidelines. And they will look at your criminal history, the severity of it. And listen, Diddy will, if I'm not mistaken, be 55 in November. That's 5 days before my birthday. Shout out to the Scorpios. At 55, you get 30 years. That's a life sentence.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact.
You get 30 years, that's a life sentence. At 55, you get 30 years, that's a life sentence.
That's a fact. That's a fact. All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you guys.
I appreciate you all
joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
For sure. All right. Okay. All right.
Man, interesting, tough. Fellas, move better. To all the victims of sex trafficking, abuse. Man, my prayers go out. My prayers go out. This is a very layered thing, and I don't want to touch on it today. But even in winning the case, when you're fighting, remember a couple years ago when I'm like, there's no such thing as freedom?
Yeah.
There are layers to, like, 50 talked about it. I mean, tune in Thursday. Like, my question is, okay, if a company's paying you $60 million a year, how much are they making off of you? But then is asking for equity at some point a death sentence?
Well, is it asking for equity, or is it starting to ruffle feathers? Is it calling a company racist? Is it that publicly? That's
a death sentence, especially in a more now. If this was 1950, nobody would have gave a damn. Cool. So what? You won't even see our family. But now, if you can devalue the company and make this company worth less, that is a declaration of war. I don't like take his behavior out of it. When I went through that Wikipedia and went through the hip hop mogul list and saw who we had left, man.
So what do you think about this Diddy situation?
He moved foul for a long period of time, but I think the biggest lesson I'm taking away from it, outside of not doing some of those acts, like when you upset a power structure, you have to. Tupac said, "Don't go to war unless you got your money right." There's some people you can't go to war with.
That's a fact.
That's a reason. Math asked me the other day, how do you stay protected while trying to liberate our people in a financial system that isn't pro us? Why y'all think I scream Vanguard and BlackRock so much? Y'all make all them little Illuminati jokes. That's cool. But me driving money to Vanguard and BlackRock does provide me a little bit of protection. Opposed to if I moved y'all to Cumcoin or some shit back in 2020. It helps if Vanguard is the beneficiary of that, which I've never got a kickback, $1, a fucking mouse pad from. You have to know what empires you can attack and which ones you can't. Like, those liquor brands have a legal monopoly.
I will say this. Stay away from drugs.
Yes.
That's important.
Very key.
If there's any advice to give to people, drugs usually don't result in good things over the course of time.
Yeah.
Stay away from drugs. Don't resort to violence.
Yep.
At any point in time when it comes to relationships.
Yeah.
Violence is never.
It only begets more violence.
On either side.
Yep.
Never resort to violence, but especially if you're a man. If it even gets to the point where it's just walk away.
Yeah.
It's not
worth it.
It's not. That's never okay.
Or right.
So okay, so now we have two things. We have don't do drugs, stay away from violence. Never, if it's even a gray area, don't do it.
Yeah.
Meaning, if you gotta give somebody something, and I'm not saying this about I'm just saying just
in general,
because I don't know.
An inducement.
All of this is alleged, but I'm just saying just in general, just life principles.
Yeah.
Don't, if it's a gray area, it's not worth it. Don't try to, give somebody an extra shot or give somebody a pill. It's not worth it, bro. Like, it's just, it'll be more. It's another day. You live to fight another day.
Yep.
It's not the end of the world. Like, it's not the last day on earth. Like, don't resort to that. It's not necessary. And yeah, just, keep those principles no matter how much money you get.
Yeah. Because
these are things that we've seen very, very powerful people fall because of situations like this. He's not the only one.
And higher powers up in that industry will let him fall to keep the heat off them. It's crazy.
William brought up one thing that was, I think Chris brought up one thing that was, he said, like, if he had somebody to tell him. I personally think that he's the head. You ever see those movies and they have like the FBI has like the diagram. I think he's at the top
in our space, but I'm gonna stop. I ain't gonna go.
But I'm just saying, as far as their target, but maybe he's not at the top. Maybe this is, I don't know. That would be interesting. But
that goes back to the relationships.
Yeah,
like
for sure. You got it.
This whole Kendrick Drake battle of morality and action, like that's permeating culture. Even Weinstein got recharged in New York, and he's not able to escape. Like, also too, don't be so arrogant to think that problems are going to go away. I'm gonna be super honest. He should have been paid Gene Deal off. I don't know how you let that shit run around for 8 years, and I gave 60,000. Boy, be quiet.
But you also can't negotiate with terrorists. That's the saying, right? Because like once you start to pay people, then
we can arm them though. It's shit that they say for TV versus what happened. Yeah, we won't negotiate, but we'll leave the arms right here for you. I'm gonna get out the y'all business, right? I don't want no smoke. But it's like, yeah, I agree. But if a person is disgruntled, they really either want to be close or want to be paid.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's yeah, man.
Shout to Art of Dialogue. Art of Dialogue one page ain't a bunch of interviews. We had a bi-weekly series, so I'm like, damn. I'm telling, okay, great. If you have, that's why I be telling them little dudes on YouTube, you get mad at me, I'll give you the 3,000 you want up front. Just go ahead.
Is this the biggest fall that we've seen
in hip hop?
Yeah,
I believe so. And I don't know how he makes it out of it. Like, like I haven't seen, and even from a perception standpoint, like how do you get a jury to give you a fair trial with media being the way that it is today? It's impossible.
Yeah.
My grandma knew who Diddy was. Puffy Combs, Puffy Combs. Everybody know Puff. You know, J-Lo shit. Like, it's hard to get a clean trial, but I think the biggest thing is just to move with integrity. And even if powers that be are enabling you to do this, don't fall for the bait because they're going to cut your head off first.
I mean, like I said, the crazy thing is when they get people to start telling, because then it might not even be true. What they're actually saying might not even be true.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's like, you know.
I'm going to be clear. The shit with Cassie, that's that. So we not, because I know they're going to clip us up.
With
like,
the tape?
Yeah.
No. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just, and this is.
Oh, in general, yeah.
None of those aren't domestic violence charges that he's facing.
Yeah.
He's facing racketeering, conspiracy, shit like that.
Even in hip hop, everybody getting a RICO charge. That was old mob boss shit. I'm staying out of legal business. But those were old mob boss and mafia charges that have spilled over.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. But when you go through that hip hop mogul list of all the labels that have been started, look how many that have been either put in jail or died under mysterious circumstances. Going back to Market Mondays, policies were not paid out to a lot of these rappers. I ain't gonna call no labels out. But even with Kanye, when they were trying to diagnose him as clinically insane, and so his rights to Yeezy would go to a certain family, and it didn't work. But then they destroyed his company right in front of our eyes.
When we watched it, I think 50 says something that was pretty interesting. If you watch the episode on Thursday at 9:00 on your leisure.
Can we do a preview clip? No?
Sure.
Let's play the clip.
Play the clip.
You have the experience with major corporations like me, my particular experience with Beam Centauri. It was great in the beginning. It's great for us to work for them. It's not so cool when you start to own things. You see what I'm saying? So I made a lot of money with them too. Like there's a point, they did a deal that mirrored what Puffy's deal with Diageo was for Ciroc. So he didn't have ownership of that at any point, but he was getting a lot of money, like almost like $60 million a year at one point. So you see him go to daily on is when you see him have some issues. And these people have really strong relationships. Don't think that the civil case doesn't turn into a criminal case faster because he's making them uncomfortable. That's a big part of it. The spirits business it's not governed. They got a discus board that they created, right? If you got two companies that are $3 billion a year, and Beam Centauri and Diageo, the distribution level, it's very hard for you to get things to a point where you can do the right numbers. They incentivize the sales force by giving them box bonuses. And then when you sell a product, you get the bonuses off the boxes that's there. But you make that no matter what product you're selling. So if you sell Hennessy or Remy out the gate, they start to put downward pressure on the new companies.
All right, man. Yeah, I mean, he said it, right? In that clip, he actually said it, right? Where and everybody knows that they don't like each other.
Yeah.
But I mean, he said it like, don't think that him targeting
Mm-hmm.
company doesn't turn this civil case into a criminal case faster.
Yeah. We'll get into the spouse in public. They'll use the power structure to come. And I was like watching, so the stage was here, I was off to the right. And I'm expecting him to say something funny to make fun of Puff, which he's done. But to hear the compassion, I'm like, oh, this shit is really serious. Like when your enemies start to have compassion for you, that's when you know shit is real. And I keep telling you guys, like, the higher up you go, dog, they won't let LeBron retire. Like, the higher you go up this power structure, you got to be very careful, because once you pass a certain threshold, it's really tough to have the freedom that you think that you'll be able to have. So,
any other topics you want to talk about?
Let's see. How many of these relationships out here be fake? I know Ruby Rose said that
Drewski?
Yeah.
Well, I got educated on that. I didn't even know, but we started spending time in Hollywood, and they were saying
that's a big thing.
Yeah, like talent agencies and PR like companies, they'll manufacture relationships to get publicity for an artist, or so that I like I said, I didn't never really thought about it like that.
Yeah.
But that definitely happens in Hollywood.
Yeah.
A lot of these relationships are manufactured, fake.
Yeah.
Just for publicity, shit like that.
Yeah, for good luck.
And that's the probably like y'all basing your couple goals off of a relationship that's not even real.
And they don't even like each other in real life. Shout out to all the J-Lo exes who
J-Lo going crazy. How many times?
Ben Affleck looked like a whole different person, boy. The person you pick is vitally important, yo.
That's a fact.
And they kissing on the date. How you divorce somebody, then go to brunch and kiss them? J-Lo a terrorist. She a Leo, so I get it.
Nasty work. Nasty work.
Tough.
Nasty work.
Tough.
Nasty.
Yeah. No, I'm good on all the topics. I'm gonna say my book, but you guys put in comments, what are your thoughts? Hip hop, gotta clean it up. They're setting a lot of booby traps for y'all.
Yeah.
To get all that publishing up off y'all.
For sure, man. Next week we'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Yeah.
But we had to have this special episode to kind of chronicle rise and fall of a black billionaire. Federal indictment, man. We're gonna see how this thing plays out. For sure. But at the very least, I think that it's something that you can learn from.
So much I want to say, but I won't. For you YouTubers, when you clip us up in 4K.
Please.
Thank you.
Respectfully. Respectfully.
You know what I mean? I love y'all.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, don't do drugs, ladies and gentlemen.
Keep your hands to yourself.
Keep your hands to yourself.
Don't fellas, I know y'all tired of me about being on y'all, but glow up so you don't have to buy women and coerce women to do shit they don't want to do with you.
No means no.
Yes.
And be careful, man, as far as who you make enemies with.
Quit sending 6 DMs back to back. 3 at most. 3 a reach, but 6. I'll be sending some of y'all the screenshots. I'm like, God damn, she ain't even that cute to follow with that much.
You took it too far.
You gotta go get Chat GPT.
You took it too far. You took it too far.
My Lord, since 2021.
Facts.
Stop.
All right, guys.
Yeah. Be careful who you make enemies with.
Man,
please.
Thursday, 9:00, Invest Fest conversation, 50 Cent. I
want to be egregious. Do you think they're going to target anybody else?
I hope not.
Yeah.
I hope not. But most importantly, we got to have justice for all victims of any sex act that had potentially taken place.
I do. Okay. If people are around these industry parties and freak offs, who's responsible to say? Because a lot of people is complicit in this shit. I see a lot of y'all in these shade room comments, and I'm like, you was with Taz 10 years ago.
Who?
The Angels.
Oh, Taz Angels?
Yeah, dog. Y'all was at somebody party.
What is the definition of a freak off?
I don't know. Maybe 1,000 bottles of lube. That's crazy. Johnson & Johnson though got
the
a fucking
lube.
dollar.
The lube on 1,000 is different,
It's
bro.
crazy.
Baby
Ain't that
oil.
much slip and slide in the world, yo.
Slip and Slide Records.
God,
Slip
damn.
and Slide Records, man.
Yeah.
Nah, 1,000 bottles of lube is crazy.
Some of y'all was trying to get into some of the white parties. Y'all was going out y'all fucking mind to go to, yo.
Well, let's just be clear, because I've went to a Diddy party before.
Okay. Ooh.
I've actually go to.
What happened?
I went to 2 Diddy parties.
What happened?
Nothing.
Where, LA or where? Miami?
LA and New York.
Okay.
I went to the last one, actually. The last one they'll probably ever have in life. Right after the VMA Awards, Club
That was
Love.
last year, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That was in a club though in New York.
Yeah.
When
Big TMZ.
But
I saw you.
ain't that happen. That's a fact.
Big TMZ.
But not happen. I mean, that's why I said, like, you know, for me, I mean, you know, I hope that whoever, if there are victims in this, that they get justice, but you're innocent until proven guilty. To me, and granted, it's not, I'm like his best friend in life, right? I only been around him a few times, but I didn't see anything like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm just being honest. Sometimes life just gotta be honest. Everybody bashing like, yo, the Diddy parties. I seen grown men trying to climb a fence to get
into them parties, yo.
That's a fact. So it's just
Be
crazy
worse
how
than
the
the women.
it's crazy how the tables turn. Like
yeah.
Art Basel, last year, 2 years ago, I seen it with my own eyes. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like people trying to like
finesse.
We walking in and they like yo, tell them what you. I'm like, bro, I don't really even know you like that. Like, and like I said, I ain't see nothing crazy. It was just a regular party. Granted, I never stay anywhere after 2:30 a.m.
My dad used to tell me all the time.
Nothing good happens after 2 o'clock. So
Irish exit 1 to 1.
I don't know what happens at 5 o'clock in the morning, but no, like, you know what I'm saying? So
our bodyguards responsible. Like I commend Gene for speaking out, but if he was that close to all that action, that's tough that you never did anything.
That's a good question. That's kind of like the lawyer though, right? You have a client privilege. If I'm your bodyguard and I'm watching you do some wild shit, technically, if I like, that's a very sticky situation because my job is to protect you, not to protect somebody else.
But he's in interviews saying, and Gene, if you see this, I don't have an issue with you. Art, you know, I love you dearly. But if he's like, yo, I would have beat Puff ass if I saw this and you saw a bunch of foul shit, why retroactively act as if you were going to save? And I know you guys regret because of what happened in LA and all that shit, but it's like all these bodyguards are coming to speak out. And it's like, well, you saw some of the shit.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not a bodyguard. But I mean, I've been around just regular shit in life where I might know somebody and then it's like a domestic situation that looks like it's, and I'll be like, yo, bro, you gotta chill. I'm not gonna jump in front of a bullet and do no crazy shit, but I just felt uncomfortable being in this atmosphere. So it's like, just you can't. I'm not going to just, you know, like, you just gotta chill out, bro. Like, don't do this right now. It's not a good time. Like, y'all gotta have calm heads. So I guess if you're a bodyguard and you kind of witness some crazy shit happening, but most of the time I would think that they would tell the bodyguards to just, you know, go away for a minute. But who knows? Who knows? At the end of the day, man. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been real.
It's been real. Do not make enemies with the wrong people. I am begging. Like, it's not worth it. I'm telling you,
it's not. It's really not.
So
Thursday, 9 o'clock, we'll tap in. Until then,
peace.